Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Just turn down my music a little bit here. Sweet. How's it going? I feel like it's been a busy few weeks. Never can quite get everything done that I want to get done, you know? And I guess I didn't put my phone on. Just do not disturb. Cool. We're good. We're good. We're set. Today, probably gonna be a little bit of a quick one here. In the previous stream, we were experimenting a little bit with a Tori app that was using Leptos. And in that experimentation, we did a request on the Rust side. And we used a library called reqwest. That's wherever the title is, down here somewhere. And there's a little bit of a weird thing with the input and output. I think we eventually figured it out, but I think what we are going to try today is pulling that same library in and going back to our personal Rust CLI and implementing it there. One of the things that I do eventually want to get to in that CLI is be able to post directly to a couple of the social feeds, whichever makes sense. At least for me, Blue Sky would probably be the first one that we would give it a shot, but that requires auth and a little bit of extra work, and that's probably not on the cards today. But we can do a request. Type in a command in the terminal, it does the thing, it fetches and returns a response. TBD on what we fetch specifically, but this is going to be more of just like implementing the like base level part of it, and then we'll look at doing more advanced requests in another stream. So we can hop on over. I got everything. I forgot about that. Let me fix that real quick. So I started experimenting with pulling in a second camera, and clearly I didn't finish my experimenting because I don't have it on right now. It's almost there. We'll get it soon, but it's intended to point down because, I mean, it's kind of cool to see the keyboard, but also on top of that fact, I'm gonna do the slow move down. On top of the fact, the streams that we have done a few in the past. Is that right on? Yeah, that's good enough. Good enough for now. Good enough for now. The streams that we've done in the past have included some like small electronics work, and we've played around with e-ink display and a Raspberry Pi 0W. Yep. And there's probably going to be a little bit more of that coming. I would eventually like to play around a little bit with the Rust embedded. Probably not near term, but soon. We want to have a view of the actual components though, and that's part of it. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Anyways. Rust CLI, we've got a socials, and we'll just ignore this for now. But oh, actually, that's not too bad. We can just we can remove it so it looks a little bit cleaner. That's what it is. Process : _ Oh, Rust Analyzer. That was messing me up here. I saw the colon in there. I was like, wait, I have one in there already. Okay, so now if we rerun this, it should be a little bit cleaner. When we install this and like run it locally, it's not going to have this little bits here. So this command does link to the socials. We started working on one that does computer information, but there was some bits that we hadn't quite figured out, which is fine. You can see that I have just restarted my computer because my Elgato, I can never think of what it's called, Camlink Pro? I don't know, the PCIe card seems to never connect. I have to restart my computer before every stream. Oh well. Anyways, so we've got two commands. I think we're going to do a third one. We're going to pull in request, and then we're going to start making some requests and see how far we can get today. I can't imagine that it's going to be too involved to get a sort of quick POC up, and then we'll have to decide where we want to do an actual request. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. Cargo, add request. Hey, look at that. So this is a command. I think it's on the main cargo CLI now. I don't think it used to be like a separate package or a separate crate that you can install to do it, but quite handy, we have our two commands, socials and computer. Maybe we just do a fetch. We'll start with a fetch and go from there, I guess. We'll have to kind of remember how to do clap. Fetch process boolean. There's a copy boolean. We probably want to, maybe we just start with the URL. Is there a URL type? Yeah, let's go with that. So this is letting us know now that we have added an additional item to the struct, and it's not covered, which is nice. I guess we can copy this. And we are going to do fetch. Hopefully, my neighbor is getting their roof replaced, so hopefully that doesn't come through too much, but we will do what we can, that's for sure. Okay, so URL, when we pipe in a URL into this, we're going to get this. So right now it will no up, and then if we, I guess we just, let's just print for both right now. I suppose I didn't actually need to copy that, but, you know, I did. Print URL is this. And URL. So with the other one, with the other command, the socials, we have a more advanced value called social item. And we're just setting it in line and then looping through it. So you do a for loop in this like inline array of items that we have. So we could take this out, and this should give us some output at least. So if we do a fetch, we do have a cargo check going on right now, which is why we had the file lock. All right. Expected Boolean found string. Yeah, that makes sense. So how do we check if a value is defined? If my Rust is kind of rusty, I guess. Rust check if string is, I guess, empty. Empty would work. Is empty, okay. So if we do dot, there's the is empty, contains. So we can, I suppose we can do the is empty. And I don't remember what the star, oh, dereferencing, okay. And I've clearly been writing way too much TypeScript lately and not enough Rust, because I can't even remember how to do the opposite. Rust string is not empty. Can you just do a can you do bang string dot is empty, non-empty string? False otherwise. Split string and skipped empty substrings. How to create and check a string is empty. Like we just want to is not empty. Okay, they do a trim, which probably isn't a bad idea actually. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same. Trim will, ooh, I need to fix my posture because my typing is not great right now. Type of boolean cannot be dereferenced. I wonder if I do need to dereference. Doesn't seem like I have to. Not okay. Performs the okay. Perfect. You can do that. All right. So if we do that, the following required arguments were not provided. Do we need to do something to make it not required? Command and these other ones aren't required. It definitely doesn't. So check for the existence of subcommands, and if found, a user matches just as you would the top level command. Okay. Why are the other ones required or not required and this one is? Arg, short and long. Arg, short and long. I don't see anything that's specifically saying that it is required. Huh. Oh, wait. No. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So if it's not empty, it should have a value, so we should be here. Let's just comment all this out, and we're just gonna straight up print, just to make sure that we're not doing something funky here where we're actually Try ignoring the field. I mean, we don't have a specific error. The following required arguments were not provided. Dash dash URL. So it does seem to imply that we are specifically saying that it is required. Kitty is licking the green screen again. If you are a long-time viewer, I guess, of the stream, Kitty likes to lick the green screen. I don't get it. I do not get it. So command, option, commands. So CLI. So is there just something? Come on. Oh, stop, please. Let's go ahead and just pull up the clap docs. I think there's something that I am specifically. Stop looking the green screen. I think there's something that I'm doing that is specifically presenting it as required. So this is options. It has a name and account. I guess print version is probably the version of the CLI. Version number and .exe extension on Windows replaced by placeholders. Sure, okay. This would be the derive tutorial. Now, is there something? Okay, so that can be required or optional. One optional, you work with an option and can unwrap or. So here we're doing port. It has specifically default value. That might actually be the way we want to go, is set a default value here. But if we look at what they were doing before, so this is an add, add. It says that we've previously showed that arguments can be required or optional. Okay, but that's the first time you actually mentioned required, which is somewhat confusing. I kind of expected if they mentioned anything about this before that point, they would have used the word required. Perhaps most our group is to require one and only one argument to be present out of a given set. So if these are the options that we can pass in, option, this. Okay, group required true, multiple false. So inversion. Inversion, so this whole group is required. So this whole thing here is required, but those aren't. So I guess what we could say is option string. I suppose the reason that we didn't realize it before was that with a Boolean, the default is just automatically false. Okay. Now if we say dot unwrap dot trim, all right, so we have a reference. Cannot move out of the dereferenced URL, which is behind a shared reference. Help. Oh, help. Consider calling asref or asmute to borrow the type's contents. You can clone the value and consume it, but this might not be your desired behavior. Ooh, hi kitty. She jumped right in my elbow. I guess what we can do is just say dot as ref, but you can clone the value and consume it. I think for now we can probably just clone it, because that's likely what we're going to end up doing here. Okay. Process did not exit successfully. So it panicked on unwrap on a none value. Oh, okay. Got it. So if they don't pass it, then it's going to be none, which makes this check a lot easier. So we can say, I suppose we could actually do a match in here now. Do we want to do a match? So a match would allow us to do I think we can fuzzy match actually. So let's actually just do a match, and we're gonna say we are gonna reference URL and do this missing arm. Oh, because can I dereference? Does it make sense to dereference it here? Missing match arm, none and some. Perfect. Okay. So some. This will be one of the match arms, and then we are going to have a none, and that will be another match arm, and we can move this here, and we can move this here, and this goes away. Missing match arm at none and not covered. Whoop, I deleted one of my there we go. So now we need to put the actual like value in here, and this will be what is this going to be? I guess URL. Can I do commands fetch I actually don't know. Is it going to be the same match arm as above? That feels a little bit awkward. What's our quick fix? Oh. So is it just going to be URL? Yeah, okay. So URL is a string because it's been unwrapped already. Due to our match. which has now been moved up a line. So our match will handle basically the same thing that we were trying to do with the unwrap. Do we still need the clone? No. Okay. Yes. Consider removing the dereference here. I'm actually kind of, okay, it leaves the original option in place, creating a new one with a reference to the original one. Okay, so it's converting from an option. So right now we've got it is a reference. So I think we could do as ref. There we go. No URL passed. Perfect. So if we don't pass the URL, let's just do the default. We'll go back to this. And I think for the most part, I'm going to care about the JSON response. We're probably going to do, we might do some post requests, but for the most part, I'm presuming we're going to do a GET request. And I suspect I'm only really going to care about doing JSON. So this is doing a post request as JSON to an endpoint. We have some other things in here, blocking gzip. Yeah. JSON deserialization. I think we are going to, we're going to want to do the GET request. I kind of prefer the setting up the client sort of structure here. And then we are going to, whoop, wrong button. I'm going to put that down here. And we had some formatting applied, which made the whole thing return a match statement. And I would prefer to do this. There we go. So this is the other thing that I was a little bit curious about, how we were going to end up needing to deal with this. So right now everything that we're doing in our CLI is sync. The top level function is sync or synchronous. But once we start doing requests, we sort of implicitly have to, implicitly is not the best way of saying this. There's a built-in expectation that when you're doing a request that there's going to be, you're going to have to wait for the request. If we're doing it synchronous, I think there's a blocking client. So we could potentially block. Maybe we try that first. Let's try that first. So we're setting up a client. The client is then used here, and then we are printing whatever it's returning. So this is, I don't want the post request, I want the GET. So let's do this. And this and that. So this should theoretically give us the response. And we can then do one of these and one of these. So this should give us values, except for having to deal with the async part of it right there. For the first implementation of this, we are going to say we want to do request blocking. I don't know if we could set up a client like this. Fields result. Cannot find blocking in request. Okay, it doesn't like that. Can we do dot blocking? No field on client. I wonder if the client stuff is slightly different. So you can use the get shortcut method. Okay, so there's a body method of request builder. Most features available to the asynchronous client are also available on the blocking client. Okay, good to know. If calling directly from an async function, consider using an async request client instead. Okay, so we need to enable the optional blocking feature for this to be available, and that I suspect is part of our issue here. So if we do version equals and features, so this should give us a blocking client. No method named text found for struct. So what is response gonna give us now? There's a send. A query. So using it appears to be slightly different. So what have we got here? This is the request builder. Request blocking get. I guess there. Every time I look at this, I feel like I feel like I prefer this pattern, but all of the examples are in this pattern, and they don't seem to quite map one-to-one, which I suppose makes sense. There is a shortcut function. Yeah, maybe we just do this for the moment. We'll deal with the client later. And this will be this. So it can only be used in a function that requires result, or that returns result or option. Which makes sense. It's a request, blocking, get, returns a result. Let's try running it, see if we get the same, wondering if we're getting some out-of-date help in our ID. Cannot use that operator in a function that returns that. In a function that returns empty parentheses. I mean, I suppose that makes sense, but like, so this gives us the body. See, like this is a little bit confusing. And this probably comes back to, I meant to go back and watch the previous stream where I was getting hung up on this. But I did not have a chance, which is fine. But like, I mean, I'm literally copying this and then it's not working. And the errors don't seem to point to, it seems to point to this specific issue rather than like some structure that I have coming in and out of it. Hey, God's will. Chris, hey, yeah, so I was talking to Chris, was it last week already? Man. Oh, I need more time in order, I swear. And we were, Chris and I were discussing how I got hung up on this, and I was trying to remember what the heck I did to understand it. So that will return the error to main, which isn't typed. Okay, so and I think this is the part that's sort of like confusing me with this error is when I read this, I'm seeing, okay, it can only be used in a function that returns result or option. And I'm going, okay, this returns a result. But the thing that I think is catching me is that the whole main function, which is what Chris is pointing at, is it expects a result. This function should return a result or option to accept ? So the question mark will return an error to the main function, which isn't typed to return a result. Oh, okay, I got it backwards. The main function isn't expecting to handle a result. So function main result request error. So we could do the actual return of the main function. Hopefully copying and pasting this does not give me gremlins, but so if we do this, we're basically telling the main function that this is the type that we want to return. And we've got a bunch of other commands in here that are not typed to return that correctly. Okay, yep. So the final return value now needs to be okay. So since this is sort of just, this whole match statement here is sort of a side effect as it is right now. We're just printing out to the CLI. What Chris is saying is we can do this, and we're basically now returning to the main function a value that fits with those types. So theoretically, anything in this match statement, we could have nothing in this match statement trigger, or we could just comment this whole thing out, and this piece would still work. We're running this main function, it's parsing the args, and then it's just returning. Everything in here is kind of a side effect, effectively. So now, what we get is request blocking get. This will return a response or error. We are using the question mark. Which is that unwrapping the result? This like question mark. So a lot of the Rust that I've done or tinkered with is more on the synchronous side of things. And now that I feel like async is starting to stabilize, part of the reason that I'm doing a bunch of these is that it feels like everything, I mean, this is almost like in the same situation in JavaScript where once you started handling things async, it feels like everything should just be async. And at some point, I'm like, I'm just going to presume by default that everything is async and just call it a day. This question mark seems like something that's newer, right? I'm pretty sure that's newer. But I definitely feel like that has popped up as a pattern more since async has been introduced and more deeply integrated. And I'm definitely much less familiar with it. Okay, so question mark unwraps the result. Yeah, okay. So we're unwrapping the result, then we're calling text on it, and we're unwrapping that because text, I'm presuming, returns a result. So now when we are running this, we should get a string, which is this little bit here is Rust Analyzer helping us out. It's not actually typed. And then we're printing the body. So if we call that now, we are not specifying a URL. So we're falling into the none match arm, and we are printing the body. Obviously, this is not something that's going to be useful for us locally. So let's, what would be a good, I know. I think I still have a URL shortener thing here, and it's got very little HTML on it, if I recall correctly. Yeah, a little bit less going on here. So it's printing out the whole body equals, and then the actual value that's being returned. So I think next thing, let's this right now is a blocking request. I think we switch this to async, and I'm not certain how. I presume that clap can handle async, but I haven't actually ever looked at it. I'm presuming that we will instead have to note something on the main function that it's async, but I have no idea. Validation, adding arguments, testing. I don't specifically see anything in here that says I'm on the latest, right? Yeah. I don't see anything specifically about async. Testing, cookbook, builder, parser. So when I get into this situation where I'm not quite sure, I'm kind of ignoring what Chris is saying for the moment, but when I get into a situation where I'm not quite sure where to go with it, so I know I want to make a request to async. I don't see anything in the docs. I'm presuming that I have to do something in clap to handle the async. But when I don't see anything, what I really like about Rust is the compiler tends to help us quite a bit. So I think the first thing, pending whatever Chris is saying above that I'm still ignoring, I would try basically implementing this using the async request functions instead of blocking. So doing something like this and just seeing what the errors actually tell us. And that might be enough using the compiler errors to like get us to the right answer. So Chris is saying clap isn't running your program, you're calling it. So throwing Tokyo main on the main function should work. Interesting. Okay. So all right, let's go to the main request. Do they actually specifically say anything about Tokyo in here? Async and blocking clients. Making post requests, forms, JSON. Do they actually say anything about it? No. So there's, let's see if I can get this right on the first try without having to look anything up. The Rust initially was primarily synchronous, and I mean, you could do threads or blocking, and there was some other ways that you could sort of like handle async type things. But I feel like Tokio was the first library that began to actually establish sort of a async await paradigm, if you're familiar with the JavaScript TypeScript land. And Rust has made async standard, or began to adopt a bunch of this, but I'm still a little bit fuzzy on the details between like it seems like everything is still using Tokio, and I don't know if that's just sort of a legacy thing where there's an expectation that things are going to convert over to a more standardized async, or how that all comes together. But it's really common anytime you see async stuff, look for Tokio, because that is starting to give you another like rabbit hole to dive into and understand how the async part of it is working. I think that's the thing that sort of like catches me, because if we go, they mentioned in the blocking here, if the immediate context is only synchronous but a transitive color is async, consider changing that color to use Tokio task spawn blocking. And it seems like everything is just sort of like using Tokio still. Tokio is an event-driven, non-blocking I/O platform for writing asynchronous applications. Hence why it was sort of the thing that everybody just adopted, because there wasn't anything in the standard lib. So I'm still not quite certain off the top of my head if like how interchangeable these things are. I think for the most part everything's still kind of using Tokio, and I'm not sure what the future looks like as far as that goes. Okay, so anyways, the client is asynchronous, which makes sense why we were getting tripped up on trying to make a blocking. Yeah. Which probably, in general, makes sense to, for like this use case. It probably is easiest. We're firing off one request probably per command. It's probably easiest to just make it blocking. But I suspect that the CLI will kind of grow, and I'm kind of expecting, and partly because I want to get into it a little bit more, I'm expecting more things to be sort of like more naturally async type work. So I think, whoa, what the, I think when things get to the bottom, we get some weird things sometimes up there on the top one. Gosh, there's just too many things to fix, I tell you. So there's a bunch of async runtimes for different purposes. I doubt any will be included as de facto in standard lib. Okay. I thought async standard was being slowly incorporated into the standard lib. Maybe the underscore standard was throwing me off there. Pollster and Embassy. I don't know that I've actually heard of Pollster or Embassy. Interesting. Tokio is like by far the largest though, right? Async standard is, I thought that was sort of the thing that they were spinning it off in a separate crate to try to implement this. Like I thought the intention was to try to get this into the the standard lib itself. Oh, no, it's all like here, off, on. Not all. That'll work. People who wrote async standard wanted to explore their work on async futures and standard lib. Okay. Yeah, futures is another thing too. Futures is quasi equivalent to promises in JavaScript, as I understand. Yeah, okay. Offers standard types like future and stream. Okay. So I guess, I mean, really, whatever library you're using, in this case, we're using reqwest. It feels like sort of the right answer is use whatever your libraries are using as far as async goes. So I guess Tokyo is sort of the way to go here, which means that throwing Tokyo main on the main function should work fine. So let's go to Tokyo. I don't think we actually need to add it because I think it's like coming in from other libraries, but let's just go with that for right now. And this is what Chris was mentioning as far as throw it on there. In which case we go like this. So theoretically, that should work. Yeah, when in doubt, you should probably want Tokyo. Yeah, okay. That's sort of the vibe I was getting. I thought they were like further along where async standard was actually intended to be included, more than just like experimental at this point. But I haven't kept up with it very well, and that's why y'all get to come along with me on the exploring it on stream. Okay, so we should now be able to do this. We're going to swap this in here again, just so it's a little bit easier to read when we run it. And this is what I mean by could not find main in Tokyo. This is what I mean by the compiler helping us out a little bit here. Sometimes it's easier. I've found that it's sometimes easier to just toss it in and see what the compiler says. We get a Tokyo main, or we have like a spread squiggly error on the Tokyo main. Can I find main in Tokyo? I'm assuming that has something to do with features. And I'm assuming this might be somewhat related to this. Chris says, I don't think standard is going to get a runtime. It'll get traits like stream or async iterator, but not a runtime. Okay. Okay. And I do actually want to switch to the client. Just, I don't know, this pattern is maybe more familiar to me, which is why it feels good. Could not find main in Tokyo. I'm assuming that I am getting this because of the features. We are going to go with full and just see what that changes. Yeah, full for the wind. For the wind. It's one of those things that like I feel like the features, it's easier just to say, give me everything. When I get to shipping, then I'll care a little bit more about squishing that features list a little bit more. But to be honest, if you're using, if you're doing like a dash release, does it matter if you have all the features enabled? Because dash release should give you a build with all of that, like, what's the Rust word? All I can think of is the JavaScript tree shaken out. Is that? Yeah, well, we're gonna go with that. All right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. We be async now. Which, as I suspected, the other errors were also originating from. So this now works. So we should be able to then do a client.get, and what does that give us? It has a built-in await, I believe. Maybe not. The trait try is not implemented for request builder. Okay, so get gives us a request builder. Do we need to do like a... Let's just take all this out here. So we get a request builder, and now that is going to give us a... I guess you gotta call send. It feels a little bit awkward. Maybe I do like the other Ooh. Consider awaiting. Okay, so this is going to give us send is going to return a feature, which is a result. And do we... I think what's confusing me too is TypeScript has the question mark operator, and remembering where to put that relative to where you put this one. Yeah, okay, back to features, yes, but it impacts compile time anyway. I guess that makes sense. So if you are very certain that you're only going to use a certain subset of features, only include those features because it's going to affect compile time. Probably both the debug build and the release build, eh? But in this case, let's just go. We're going to include the full feature list, and it's fine. Yeah, okay, yep. All right. So send is giving us a feature, and then I think it's a dot. We got to do a dot await on that, right? Send and then await question mark. I think it's the same for get and post. Oh, await question mark. There we go. So now this gives us a response, and then this is going to give us the actual body response of that, which I think is this. Yeah, okay, so it's like a JSON type thing here. So if we would want to do something that's a little bit cleaner, if we would then do something like text, that's going to give us the text of the body, and then we have to await that because text returns a result. So how do you, so like anytime you have a result, you have to unwrap it. The unwrapping is happening via the question mark. It's sort of like the implicit, like if I did, if I've got this, I could do an unwrap and an unwrap. Now it's going to give me the exact same. That's nice. I like that. We get a future. We await it. Okay. So when I was hovering over this and it said result string, that's a little bit misleading because it's actually returning a future. It does say specifically async here, but this does not say future at all. So that's something I need to start paying attention to. If this says async, whatever that result is, it's going to be wrapping it. So it's a future, which is a result, in which case we need to do an await to await the future, which will give us the result. And then we need to do an unwrap, which will give us the actual value. And we can either do it in unwrap this way, or we can use this question mark here. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And there we go. Okay, we are sort of back to where we were before. Now this whole thing is wrapped in Tokyo. We get, we're sort of by default async for our main function. And now any of our request calls can use the async client instead of the blocking client. Now I think the next thing I want to do is, so right now this is text. I think I want to do JSON because I think most of what I am going to care about fetching is going to be JSON. So like we could do, we've got just a generic fetch right now. I don't really have a use case for this, but it's an easy one to sort of demonstrate the various use cases, I guess, here. Now I don't think I need any args here, but I don't know how to, can I do this? Weather, okay. Yep, that makes sense. Weather. And now it is not a, we don't have any values passing in, so we don't need this match statement here. And we don't have this, so we can get rid of that. We are setting up a client. We're gonna leave the client right there. That's fine. There is a website. Let's see if I get it right here. It's weather.in. That might actually make sense to return the body. Whoop. Snow weather. I'm assuming it's gonna do something with that IP. Yeah, okay. So it's doing the actual like HTML. So if we do, what are our options here? We get text with characters set. Consumes the response and returns a future for a possible HTTP upgrade. URL version. Try into text. Stream a chunk of the response body. And that's actually kind of interesting too. If we end up wanting to do like a streaming thing, like we can like subscribe to an endpoint and stream values as it comes in. I'm actually curious what their example is here. Hyper.rs. Interesting. So there is I think it's probably not too big of a deal to visit this. Yeah, so it's just doing a default right now, which is fine. Like if I wanted to print this out just straight up, text is actually giving us the like HTTP or the DOM. Whereas like if we did bytes, what is that gonna give us? Oh, bytes. Nope. Seems to be pretty much the same in this case. And then chunk, I guess, is the last one. And that's streaming. So like if we wanted to just straight up display the actual text without any of the DOM, when we do a .text, it is presuming that we're using UTF-8. But it's using the content type header to determine it with the fallback to UTF-8. We can specifically tell it which character set to use. I guess it would be like an into, or like we would have to do something with that encoding if we really want to. Like we could do this, and we could go to encoding RS. Or we would have to go something with text and just like strip all the DOM element stuff in there. Oh, I think I missed this before. The functions at that spot don't change the response from the server. They change how you parse the response. Yep. Which I think is referring to like these bits that we were exploring before. I'm definitely going to have to pay attention to the feature part of it. Because now we have another thing to sort of worry about here. So I don't see an easy way to just like return the response without including any of the DOM elements in here, which is fine. I presume we could write something to handle that, but I don't care enough about it right now to do that. So that's gonna go away. So let's try a JSON, and then I think that's what we're going to call it. Should we just do that? I'm actually, yeah, I think that's probably fine for now. Let's just make another command called JSON, and then we can swap things out as we see fit. So JSON, we'll keep the client here, a little bit of redundancy going on, but it's fine. So if we specify URL, it's going to go here, and which is actually a little bit awkward because now it doesn't make sense to ask somebody to enter in a URL. But I think we use the Swappy API, which is also something, if you're doing GraphQL, it's handy. So what we can then do is say, actually here, let's do a, yeah, sure. Yeah. Is that gonna work? Is it cool with all capital E in them? I presume. What are our options for? So we got an API. People, planets, starships. Weather is cool. It has all sorts of output formats. Yeah. Oh, that's true. We could. I bet you there's. We could do like JSON or some one of the other type of outputs that would make it easier to output the values. Yeah, I think I used it with a new shell. I think I got a new shell command to do it. Yeah, it is JSON. Okay, cool. So I guess that's something. They probably have like just a text response then, built into the JSON. So you could fetch JSON and just get a text response back. Actually, if it's as easy as it is, we might just do that real quick. See if I've got any. Oh, well, I got messages, so we'll save the weather stuff for another time. Let's do this JSON response real quick here, and then we're just gonna hard code some things. Let's start with this, and we're just going to straight up hard code to a response, or to a request. And we'll come back to it another time. So let's go ahead and just move this out, remove these. And we will do a people one. Now, I think this is going to give us a... Can we do like a JSON in here? Is that an option? Jot. I guess we get this. This is gonna give us like just the response. So if we do this and this, and what kind of response do we get? Query none, fragment none, headers. Status 200. So I guess we need to do something with the response. So we're just getting like the response object here. Do they have any information in request about response? So status, headers, content length, cookies, URL, text, so we can get the full text response. And JSON. Available on create feature JSON only. So, we are going to do all. Is that an option? Doesn't seem to like that. Depends on request with features all, but request does not have these features. Bummer. Okay. It says that JSON is valid. That's what's kind of nice about some of these, like Rust Analyzer and then this version check thing. I don't remember what extension this is. Creates maybe? It's nice to just like change it and see what it says. So this should give us, we're still getting the response. We didn't actually update it, but it is compiling the code with this new feature. So now we should be able to do a response.json. There we go. And we can do .json.wait this, and that should give us the actual I'm gonna do this. Decode error, invalid type map, expected unit. Ooh. So JSON is a result, async, so we're awaiting it. You didn't give JSON a turbofish type. Okay, so I'm gonna have to look at what they're expecting here. Okay, so JSON IP. What is IP? Oh, interesting. So we're basically like when we, here, let's use this because this is going to be probably the easiest to. Yeah, IP is a custom struct. So Serday is another library that helps with serialization and deserialization. It is using deserialize on IP, and we're basically saying we're going to request this as JSON, and this is going to be the type of our, when we get the response back, we can basically map it to this type. So like if we just did this, we will deal with that later. And let's copy this type in here. I think we are probably going to need this, of which we can say cargo add Serday. I don't know if we're going to need to say anything with the features, but can I find macro deserialize? Required by the bound in response JSON. The trait for that is not implemented for IP. Yep. I'm presuming Chris is right. I kind of expected it to say somewhere in here though. Can I find derived macro okay, all right, there we go. That's what I was expecting. So if we do Serday, deserialize, and we could have potentially seen it through IDE there. What's this complaining about now? Can I find macro? without a derive macro. Deserialize is imported, but is only a trait without a derive macro. I think I'm doing the import wrong. You need to enable. Yep, okay. I was wondering if we would need to enable. Does Rusta or does Cargo add have a? I assume they have a features, right? Because that would be really handy. Derive. Cargo add Saturday F Saturday derive. Okay. All right. So we're getting a conflict. Failed to select a version for send. Required by package, which satisfies the dependency. Versions that meet the requirements are these. Is there... what's the version of Saturday? Find create Saturday. Yeah. So this is kind of annoying. So basically we're running into a situation where we can't get this conflict resolved because clap versus Saturday versus whatever. Okay, Saturday, which dependency Saturday derive? So Saturday requires send. And previously selected sin, which satisfies dependency, clap. All right, so if we did, oh, and we got claps at the v4. It's kind of I mean, it's basically clap and Saturday that are having this issue, right? But if we do this, we don't actually have it in scope. Well, that's kind of annoying. I think we are gonna need this. I think we are gonna need to deal with this at some point. Show your tumble again. Clap. Just straight up using v4 and Saturday v1. It is potentially, like, if I kill my lock file, I think there's some lock stuff in there. I assumed that changing this and this would allow it to unlock. Did that actually work? Hey, there we go. Cool. So it was held up by my lock file. So I deleted my lock file, and it, with these less restrictive version numbers, it figured out a version that would make it work. Cool. All right, it sounds like I got a newly added meeting on my schedule. So I think that's where we're gonna end it. We got, thanks again for all your help, Chris. Chris does rustadventure.dev and is really dived into Rust. And I definitely appreciate your help, Chris. So if you want to learn more Rust, feel free to check that out. I've gone through 2 of them or so now, with the intention to do more, but time. We'll probably play around with doing more requests and auth type stuff. I think something like posting a whatever they call it in Blue Sky, a piece of content to Blue Sky via the CLI might be something fun to experiment with. But this is a good foundation. So thanks for stopping by, everybody. We will see you next week. Bye. Where's the button? Bye again.